Let's just start it now, just to show you that we can do that. So all the stuff that we're saying right now, it's not going to be in there. Good evening and welcome to the second Hubcast, as well as the second week of football season. I'm Aaron. With me, as always, is Ranger Dale in all of his glory. And right now, I'm here to just tell you a little bit about what you're going to expect to see on today's Hubcast. So first, we're going to have our assignment breakdown for the assignment that is due this week. Second, a new segment called Ranger Interview, where we're going to interview our Ranger Hannah so you can get to know her a bit better. And finally, our third segment, What Makes the Group Work, a segment that we have about group work where we interview some students and see what they think. So stay tuned to see the episode and maybe get the questions that you have burning on your minds answered today on the Hubcast. I hope you enjoy.
All right, hello everyone, Ranger KJ here. I'm going to break down assignment number 4, remix of the story of us. All right, we already called a workshop as well. All right, so first thing you want to do is you want to look at the instructions. All right, so this week you need to find a partner on Slack. We do have a channel for that called Group Finder. So if you open Slack, you can go to Group Finder right here, and this will be the best place to find your partner. Lots of people are already here looking for partners. Awesome. Once you have found a partner, you need to remix your story of us using both of your flash story of us. What that means exactly to you, well, that's up to you. You can look at our Rangers stories of us for examples, but how that final product turns out, that is all on you. Once you're finished remixing your story of us, then you post about that in the Slack channel, Story Remix, all right, which is also linked right here if you're looking for it, all right? And some people have already done it. Look at them go. All right, and we are finished. Very important, you need to fill out the survey. So you can click the link right here, or you can go here and go to this link and click here. The survey is not too intensive, but we will be checking it, so be sure to fill it out. Just real quick, what is your name? Who is your partner? A screenshot of the connection on Slack you made of your partner, or like a Google Doc explaining how you did that. It doesn't have to be too extra, just we want to know that you did connect in somehow and how you connected. All right, and we have a couple questions for you about what working with a partner is like. And if you listen to Ranger Courtney's playlist, then you get to choose the best track, okay? Like the one that is your favorite. That is completely optional. You do not need to listen to playlists. And once you're done, you just click submit. And that's everything. Thanks for watching.
Well, good afternoon again. We are joined today by Ranger Hannah. And Ranger Hannah, welcome to the Hubcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. This is great.
Great. So, we've been thinking a lot about community and relationship building and whatnot, and we've realized that a lot of our writers in the Hub don't know a lot of our Rangers and really don't have a lot of chances to interact with us or hear us talk. So today we're hoping to ask you some questions and get to know you a little bit. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's get to it.
Amazing. All right. So Hannah, can you tell us a little bit about where you are from?
Right. So I'm from Weston, West Virginia. Very small town, not a lot of people. There's a billboard outside the town that says it's the heart of West Virginia because it is right in the center of the state, but no one actually knows where I'm from when I tell them that. So they're usually able to pinpoint West Virginia on the map, but as for my hometown, not so much.
That's very cool. And are you in like a mountainous area in West Virginia? I know there's a lot of hills and stuff like that.
So we're in technically the plateau region, so more hills, not a lot of mountains. You have to go about 2 hours in either direction to get to the mountains.
Cool, sounds good. And tell me a little bit more about it. Is this sort of also the heart of coal mining territory and areas like that?
No, that would technically be down south. There are a ton of coal mining museums, as exciting as that sounds. Weston is technically known for its glass making, so we have one old glass factory and 2 glass museums you can visit. So whether you're into coal or glass, we've got you covered.
Excellent. You know, I always find myself at night when I'm hanging out with my friends talking about coal and glass. So I think that would be
Right?
great. So all the way from West Virginia. Now, before we move on, is that around where you went to college too, where you went to undergrad?
Yeah, so my undergrad was Concord University. It was 3 hours south of where I live, so it was literally at the bottom of the state. Very southern region. The town that the college was in was even smaller than my hometown. There was about 2,500 students, so you kind of knew everyone, got along with everyone pretty well. So coming from that very small college to this very large and spread out campus is definitely a change.
For sure. So you said Concord University, and you were an English major, is that right?
That is correct. Even though I started out as a geology major, I found I did not like the math or science part of it. So I stuck with a geology minor. So I have all the geology classes and I can pretty much tell you about rocks if you have any questions. But I eventually went with the English major, yep.
That's cool. I do love hearing about cleavage, but that's about all I know. So that's interesting. So a geology switch to English. Why did you decide to choose English from geology?
So I've always been interested in writing and reading. Those are definitely probably my top 2 hobbies. And I went into geology at first because I wanted to see what it was really like. I didn't have any geology classes in my high school. And then when I found out, I was like, oh, this is much more serious. This is more about, fragmentation and mineralogy and stuff that is cool in theory, but when you get down to the textbook part, it is not so much fun. So I definitely kind of switched it around and made geology my hobby and English more of my study.
Oh, very cool. And that's probably a really cool background too for you to have in English, to be able to talk about all of these geological terms that probably a lot of people don't know about. And that kind of brings us into my next kind of line of questioning. But we know that you're a writer and you're, of course, teaching writing. What sorts of things do you write about? Does your geology background influence what you write, or do you go into really whatever path you want to go?
My geology background has not influenced my writing that I can see. Maybe if someone else read it, they'd be able to pick up on it. I would like to kind of delve more into that and see how it could kind of reflect into my own writing. So my writing is probably more literary fiction. I tend to write about real life things that happen, but put kind of a creative twist on it.
Awesome. Now you say the term literary fiction. This is a term that I've pretty recently kind of picked up on myself. But since we probably have some writers listening in on this who don't really know a lot about literary fiction, can you tell us, you don't have to give us an exact definition, but what is literary fiction to you? What is it when you sit down to write literary fiction? What is it that you're putting down?
Right. So I honestly didn't know I was technically writing literary fiction until my undergrad professor was like, this is kind of like your genre. This is what you're writing about. And I was like, that's cool. I didn't know that. So it's definitely cool to classify myself. But as for literary fiction as a definition, I would say it's more realistic fiction with a historical background.
So realistic fiction with a historical background. That's cool. And I'm sure that there are a lot of literary terminology. There's a lot of literary terminology that comes up when you break down stories like that, right? And I mean,
right.
Metaphor and simile are the sorts of things that you learn in high school and whatnot. But I'm sure that there are things that you write that tend to maybe not be based in theme, but where you definitely see themes kind of coming through the cracks. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, that's really cool to hear, and it's interesting to hear about your background and where you're coming from. I'm sure that speaks a lot to our students right now, a lot of whom are engineers or are geologists or becoming that, right? And now they're coming into this writing class and realizing, hey, my background actually can influence my writing, and what I write can become better because of what I know.
Right.
Now, Hannah, these are just a couple more questions that aren't exactly on those lines, but recently, along with myself, you've moved to Alaska.
That is correct. Yeah, so I got here about a week before classes started. I decided to fly because I thought I would be out of my mind to drive up here alone. I mean, sounds like an awesome road trip, but for 2 weeks by yourself in the car, I feel like that's a plot to The Shining almost. But while I'm here, like I've definitely like the other day in class we saw two moose on campus. Like, what the heck? That's awesome. Just the amount of wildlife. The people here are amazing. They're so nice. They're so comforting. I like how the outdoors is literally right outside my window, so I can just hop out and go on a hike. Like I don't have to go drive and find a trail. So it's definitely a very inviting place.
For sure. How did you feel when you were first here when the sun was up pretty much the entire evening?
That definitely messed with my sleep schedule because I would be sitting either outside or inside, kind of working on stuff, and I'd be like, man, I feel kind of tired, but like it's only 7 o'clock, like the sun is still up, but then I'd be like, oh, it's actually like 10:30. So that is a whole new experience. I'm still not sure how people get used to it, but that is an amazing skill that they have here.
That's right. It's funny talking with people who are from Alaska. It's so not a big deal to any of them. And the changing of the weather
Right.
and the wildlife, going out on a hike in these brilliant, spectacular areas with all these reds, in the bushes and all these yellows in the trees. And I'm kind of looking around at all this open space and these hills that just go for miles. And everyone around me is saying, yep, like you drive 20 minutes in any direction out of Fairbanks, this is what you get, and that's
Right.
pretty incredible for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think the most spectacular thing is just walking along campus and being able to see the mountains in the distance. Like, I love that. Like, I could just sit there all day and just take in the view. Like, it's amazing.
On those similar kind of lines, Hannah, do you think you would ever take a trip out? I've been invited to a couple of trips that are out in the bush, right? Now, this is, of course, one of the main reasons why I wanted to go to Alaska. But I also know on the university campus, there are a lot of people who that's not really their MO, right? How would you describe your outdoors experience, and how would you describe your desire to kind of get out in the muskeg, so they say?
So I definitely grew up in a outdoorsy family per se. We used firewood to heat within the winter. We had four-wheelers, we had dirt bikes, we went fishing. I go hunting every season. Definitely spend a lot of time in the woods. My brother and I used to make little forts in the woods and have like paintball gun fights and stuff. So I'm definitely excited to kind of in that same environment but also see how much different it can be. So yeah, any outdoor trips to the mountains would definitely be a blast.
Awesome. Well, Hannah, thanks so much for coming on. There's all sorts of things we could talk about, but I don't want to take too much time up. Now, before we exit off, I usually like to close by shouting out a student or two. And I know I didn't give you that question beforehand, so I'm gonna start with myself as you're thinking. But I want to give a quick shout out today to a student, Sam Pope. And the reason why I want to shout out Sam today is that he's been doing a really great job interacting with other students on Slack. But furthermore, he's been coming to our live sessions. And in the most recent live session, we did a deep dive into his story of us. And it turned into a full workshop. And for about 45 minutes, we went through his piece line by line. We talked about grammar and sentence level stuff, but we also talked about quality of content, higher order concerns. And by the end, I really felt like I had established a relationship with him. And because of that, I really feel like his writing is going to improve and I can actually help him. So he can come in and I already know where he's at and we can kind of continue to pick up and work together. And it was really great to hear all the questions that he had for me and to hear about, why he wants to get back into writing and why he wants to improve. So all of that was really cool for me. So, Hannah, putting you on the spot, are there any students or rangers or really anybody just around campus that you'd like to shout out today?
Right, so I read an interesting flash story of us by, I believe her name was Isabel Bailey, Thursday. And great story with definitely some serious content, but I was really happy to see that she was able to write this story and kind of give it a good concluding ending and just be able to share her story with others. And I know there was another student I read whose name I cannot remember, but her background was kind of in dealing with substance abuse, which I thought that's an amazing topic to write on. You know, I'm so happy you feel safe and comfortable enough to bring it to our attention, and we can all kind of learn from that and learn from each other. So definitely just seeing all of the stories all around have really brought a new perspective into being able to feel safe enough to share special topics that we might usually hold closer to ourselves, but being able to let other people see and get to know you better as both a student and writer, I think is really amazing.
Absolutely. I'm Ranger Aaron. With me, as always, is Ranger Dale. And Hannah, thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Okay, so hello everyone. Ranger KJ here with Liam, a student in the Hub. Oh, yes. Nice little wave. Excellent. We're going to talk about group work, how we can all, and a little bit about how we can all be like good group work members. So I'm going to start off by asking Liam, when you're in a group, what is the most stressful part of it to you?
I think the most stressful part of it is just getting these schedules to align. So there's the story remix one that I'm working on with a group member already. And so our schedules are somewhat different. And so getting them to align is kind of difficult. And so this week or this afternoon, I guess I was supposed to work on some parts of it, but then, my schedule changed around for this afternoon. So then I wasn't able to work on it. So it's really getting the schedules to align, especially when you're over virtual, because there's kind of a reason most people are virtual to begin with, which is their schedules just don't meet with a regular timed class period. And right now it's no fault of anybody's own, but it's just group work. It's not hard. It's just getting the schedules to align can be difficult.
Yeah. No, for sure. And especially because it's something that's not really in anyone's control. It's not like most of us can just be like, well, I don't need to go to work. I'll do this group project instead.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's definitely difficult, and it's hard because you have to acknowledge that it's just the fact of the matter. What do you think in that case? What do you do when your schedules aren't working out?
Communication. So, Slack in this case has been really great in that we've been able to pretty much communicate with any of our classmates. I've communicated with a few of them already. And so I think when you're doing group projects, communication really is key. If you just had everybody's cell phone number, that's great too. But, not everybody wants to just put their cell phone number on Blackboard for everybody to just go into. But so, having the Slack for communication is just really good. And it's just being able to communicate whatever's going on. Hey, I got to do this. I'll do it sometime tonight or something like that. It's just communication is key. And I think that's something that fails in a lot of group projects, or at least that's the cliche behind them, is that somebody always kind of just drops off somewhere, and that's just honestly lack of communication.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think most of the issues of group projects can be solved if you just tell people when you're going to do something, versus just being like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Be like, I'm going to do this Sunday night. If I didn't do it by Sunday night, then maybe you can check up on me. And it saves everyone a lot of stress. Okay. So when you are working in a group, like any group, not just like this particular group, what do you think you bring? What do you think makes you a good group project member, or a bad one if you want to go that direction? But what do you think you bring to the group?
Ideas, I would mainly think, is I bring a lot of ideas to the table. And so being able to just start dialogue with people, especially in a group, is extremely helpful.
Yeah.
And so having people who can bring ideas, somebody who can knows how to put things together, somebody who knows how to string things together, edit things, And so in a group, you really just need people who can do a little bit of everything, but specifically people who are really good at certain things to get feedback off them, and then to really just, I mean, you always kind of want to have everybody who's a little bit good at everything, but ideas, I think for me, would be the main thing, being able to start dialogue.
Yeah, and in a similar vein, what do you hope other people to bring to your group that like maybe you're lacking in?
Generally just commitment to the project. And most group projects that I've had, I mean, that's been a couple of years since I've actually done a group project. Most people don't really have a lot of commitment to a group project because they either like working alone to begin with. But I mean, in this case, I mean, I have somebody who's willing to work with me and we're willing to work with each other. And so in this case, it's not too bad. But I really just hope anybody I work with brings just commitment to the project to get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
And to not like wait to the last minute, because we all have multiple classes and we all kind of need to get certain things done by certain times so we have room for whatever else shows up on our schedule.
Yeah, no, definitely. What is like, I guess we kind of already covered that, but how about this? What's the best group you've ever like worked in? Like in a group project? Can you think of one time or like maybe one style of a group? Like for me, the best groups were always like for math class, like, cause usually a lot of them were informal, and also cause people felt that it was very easy to get along and just do it. And just like, if someone had an idea that didn't work out, we could shoot it down. No personal feelings, nothing bad feeling. We just kept idea, shoot down what doesn't work. But that's also very particular to that situation. Yeah. So like what to you is like
my best group probably, my face. My ideal, I mean, I guess my best group so far was probably this last summer when I was doing a summer class through UAA. Mm-hmm. And everybody, I mean, to be in the class, they kind of had to be somewhat decent with what they were already doing. So, I mean, you kind of already had the expectation that everybody was going to you already had the expectation that everybody's bringing a little bit of something to the table. And so I would say the best group that I probably have had so far was this past summer, when everybody they brought their skills, their ability, and we were all able to just kind of help each other out, because some of us were better at some things than others.
Yeah. No, definitely. That whole like people being better at some things than others, it's a huge value of the group project. Okay. And I'll also ask you, just in case you need to vent, what's the like worst group you've ever been in?
That would have been a couple of years ago with my first group project. That was because both of them were shy and both of them were not very committed to school in general. And so let's just needless to say, they weren't the ones carrying the group. No, for sure.
Okay. And let's see. Do you have any advice, and like advice for people who like would be in your group, or advice for people like not in your group, like just advice for people entering a group project? Like what's the kind of mindset people should go into a group project with?
I would go into the group project just as thinking that you're going to have to carry a lot of the work. I mean, just go in with the mindset that, okay, I expect to probably do most of the work, but that's okay, because it's not just their grade, it's kind of my grade too. And another thing I would just in terms of advice would be willing to communicate with the people that are in your group. I mean, if you can't communicate with each other, it's just not going to be that great of an experience all around. And so if you can communicate, that would be the best thing for you. Communication, just go in with a mindset that, okay, I might have to do all the work. That's okay. It's not just about them, it's about me as well. And another thing I would just say is just be open-minded with who your group members are. It's like, okay, maybe I know that they haven't been that great with doing stuff, so maybe not choose them, but maybe go with them just to see if you can kind of encourage them along a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely like support each other. All right. And I'll give you an option. Do you think there is a value inherent in doing a group project versus assigning an individual work? And if so, like, what do you think that value is?
I think there is value in it, because you're always gonna have to work with people unless you choose a job that's literally by yourself. And I'm not really familiar with a lot of jobs that work by yourself. I mean, every job that I've had so far, you've always kind of had to work with people, and even when you're just hired by your neighbors, say, you always kind of had to work with either your siblings or another person in the neighborhood. So I think there is a lot of value in being able to do a group project, just because you're always going to need to work with people. You're always going to have to come in contact with people at some point, unless you just, I don't know, live under a rock.
Yeah, no, and I think it is true that like there's more you can accomplish with a larger group, though sometimes it can be complicated to work out that. Like the hub is just essentially a large group project for teachers.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Liam, for talking to me. I will stop.
Yeah, no problem.
So
howdy y'all, to those of you who've made it this far. Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Hubcast. Please tune in next time. If you have any recommendations about people who we should have on the Hubcast, please let us know. Also, if you would like to be on the Hubcast, we for sure will have some space for you. So let us know. Have a great rest of the week, and this is Aaron, signing out.